Welcome back, everybody, to another amazing episode of Paranormal, the New Normal. I'm your host, as always, Jeremy, here trying to make this world seem a little more normal. You guys already know we're not going to accomplish that tonight because we never do. But that's okay. I don't want the world to be normal, really. If I could change my podcast name at this point, I might, but it's been 300 plus episodes. It ain't going nowhere. So we're going to keep it normal for now. Let me introduce my guest, though. This guest, I think, is going to have some information that is going to blow a lot of minds tonight. And I'm proud to have him on. Let me introduce Johnny Tesone, geologist, world explorer, and author. And you'll hear about all that in a few minutes. But first things first, how you doing tonight, Johnny?
Hey, Jeremy. Glad to be here, brother. Thanks for having me. And we're gonna make this. We're gonna make this have a lot of content to talk about tonight.
I'm sure. I am sure, and I am looking forward to it all. But first things first, what? Usually it's just a different way, but I think for tonight, what made you want to be a world explorer?
Well, I think I was just born with it. I think I have a star seed inkling and a connection. I just think I loved a lot of different sciences, but I was in the corporate side of geology for so long and working with big geophysical companies and logging companies and working in the Rocky Mountains and stuff. So, but I had been working in the fields when I was in college and I just love the field. So geology is just one of those things that you just kind of solve problems. You can solve problems in business, if you're in the right business to solve the problems for. But for me, it's just a deep yearning to solve problems and to understand. I really think our Earth better. As I started finding more things, I couldn't stop finding things. And so a lot of my journey is still ongoing. Really 5 years from my out-of-body experience I had in the Wind Rivers of Wyoming 5 years ago during COVID was in earnest kind of what initiated the research phase of my life and the chapter of beyond the corporate world and into a totally different earth, life, and astrosciences all coming at me. And it's just been a crazy thing. That's why I had to write a book. That's why I have 30 videos on YouTube. I mean, I just got the download that day, Jeremy. I got the download, and it's just been a ride that is. I'm starting to go on the podcast, and I'm starting to get out there. So talking to you is really important to share and to tell people some really fundamental things about this earth that have been missing in the books and on social media and a lot of things. And there's so many theories. So being a hands-on guy, I mean, it's practical hands-on geology and the microscope correlation to different states and things like that. So all the way up to Google Earth now, Jeremy. So my first book is called Secrets of the Winds, and it's the Discovery Chronicles of Earth's Galactic Odyssey. So that's what I call it. Okay. So it's about from all my journeys, actually up in Wyoming, going to school up in the University of Wyoming. I had started to meet friends that were from, I think, some of the most beautiful places in the U.S. up in this country, and so up in the Wind River Range. And so I had just been going there fishing and camping and four-wheeling and friends and family over the years, and some of it was geology with field trips way back when, but it was just a natural environment for me. But anyhow, it was just that COVID that summer that changed it all. Became fishing, and I went into, I started once I had the out of body experience, I just broke down on the river, just broke down.
Well,
and it was
before we go any forward, let's dive into that out of body experience, because we love out of body experiences on this show. That's always a interesting time. So how did that happen?
it happened late afternoon, right on the river. I'd been fishing, and I think I just caught a nice one. But I think I was coming off the river kind of at a fast pace and coming off, and I think I was a little hypnoxiated. I think I was kind of maybe a little vertigo also, and I
Yeah.
was and so I was, and all of that, but it was like a vertigo, but it was almost like and not a vertigo, but it was like a feeling that I was just lifted. It wasn't chaos or confusion like vertigo, like it was like things were just in synchronicity. And that's what I call the geovortex. So that's what I named my company after, because that was the phenomenon that I started putting all my data and all my books in my library. And so that's what I incorporated on just for my trademark and my brand. You see what I'm going? So
Yeah.
my out of body experience was, geologists really don't get paid for finding stuff unless you're working for an oil company, right? In that way, or you're on a research team. But being independent, it was just I had to put the story together to actually make it a book, and then that's when it just started coming along. So my out of body experience led to not only breaking down on the river that day, but then kind of like then within 15 minutes later, you know, looking up the river, the sun was shining up on this outcrop, and it wasn't normal geology that I saw. It was engineered, and there was figures, and it was just like a portal to me. It's like, oh man. So that was the time that out of body has continued, because I think I was my past life, and I'm reincarnated as an Indian up in that country. That's why I'm so bounded to those sites, and I just feel that spirit up there, Jeremy. So that's kind of the first part of the discussion.
So I mean, I wouldn't even call it a reincarnation. Even I would call that an awakening in a way, because it was like you awoke into your true self. So
You
that's
pretty
more
much.
that's the word I would use. I mean, because reincarnation would mean you literally would have had to die first, and I hope you didn't die up there, but we can hope at least. But
No,
nope.
awakening's probably more important, because that's how I feel. I'm just like, I go up there and I've just awakened to so many more discoveries, right? It's just things just keep folding and keep coming out, and so yeah, so my out of body is an awakening that's just kind of continued, and it just keeps evolving, and I just want to continue to write more books, because I'm finding more things in Google Earth that are right down the street from me that I've thought of, and now all of a sudden I'm seeing them in the land, and it's like, whoa. It's So you talked about normal at the beginning of the show and stuff. It's like, I don't have anything normal. There's nothing normal about the geology, nothing normal. It's all against traditional, uh, institutionalized sedimentology, but it's fundamental planetary evidence that I got that changes. It doesn't change things, but it precludes the sedimentary and the oil and gas record of sedimentology and strata that's subsurface. I'm talking about I'm talking about all of it that we can see on the surface now, but it's aged because of the fossils that I found that are so old that I found on my own across all the winds. So so as that my awakening is my download. Okay, my awakening is my download, and that's where that's the part in the life that I'm living right now, and it's like the way that the book came together too was as I kept finding more evidence both on Google Earth and traveling to these sites where these, because you got to understand, um, one geological remnants from a species that's meant to dominate the earth, which I found is going to leave evidence everywhere. So once you start putting the pieces together, I started finding the craters that have happened today that are the most recent in geological history. But I also found that I had evidence of extraterrestrial beings that were housed in that matrix, that grew out of the matrix, that burrow, that grow through the rock with water. This is the species I found. That's a subspecies of the bigger species. But anyhow, all these things in the microscope and in the field and handheld things, and finding how they landed and how dams were made, and finding, you know, these rocks that made these dams up that are perfectly engineered, that are all this size, but they're different ages, but they're all engineered within the casing of these bombs that happened after the primary invasion. So what I did was peeled back and studied Google Earth like no one ever has, because I also had the evidence of the Yellowstone pipe being up in the Wind Rivers is really close to Yellowstone. So as I found my evidence, I went all the way around the earth, and it all came back to Yellowstone and how underestimated that explosion was. And that's going to be one of my other books and how I tie it together. So I took my education and my experience and my lessons I've learned in this life and awakened it in myself, and collapsed the wave of being the observer, right? So I'm just living it now, and it's like that's where I'm at.
So you said a couple times the primary invasion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm dying to know what you mean by that, because I never heard anybody actually mention like Earth being invaded.
Well, it's the Earth. The Earth is an incredible galactic hub of life, of aliens from past and present, futures. I mean, it's all documented. There's good ones, not so great ones, but there's a technology and a supreme species that I believe that, you know, that I understand, and what I can prove in my book, that brought the ocean, that created the moon. So they thought it was another crater that caused the moon to split off, another asteroid that caused the moon to split off. That's why we only have one, and it's so close, but it's getting further and further. Well, what I did is I traced and found from Google Earth the mothership. So when I say by the mothership, it's approximately 5,000 miles long and 1,500 miles wide, and it hit, split, and flooded, and brought a super compact ocean with it. It not only uses the water to manifest itself and grow within itself, but it's also the fuel that it uses, that it travels. So it's its own. Water is the water and sun. Between the water and sun, it's like almost everything that we need. So what I'm saying is the primary invasion was initial ship that came, landed, brought the water, brought the life, created the life. All of a sudden the Cambrian explosion happens, and it's like, well, where did all this come from? It was already here. They were already living off of it. So being a geologist and understanding the timelines, you know, I just started finding stuff. You know, I'm not like trying to chase a conspiracy theory. I'm just like trying to be a Columbo, right? And just trying to find all those little things. And then it started repeating. Okay, Jeremy. So once I knew I had an acumen for geometry early, I know geometry is always a key to this, but I started finding the patterns in the geometry, then the mechanics of it. And then I just started finding, you know, just these beautiful aquamarine, you know, organic crystals that aren't rock. They got molds to them. They everest. They bubble when I put them in water, and I have them tested. they got a carbon signature and water and some potassium, but you know, just incredible things. And so it's like a continuum. And then this metal. So check this metal out. It's as light as a feather. It's a super nickel. It's a super alloy. It's nickel, carbon, iron, oxygen, has oxygen, but look how thin it is. I turn it sideways, it disappears. It's so thin, almost disappears. So I had this tested at an independent lab. So there's a purpose. There was a purpose why this. It wasn't by accident. It wasn't by accident, and it came. And so I started finding the fossils. I started to find the fossils that were Precambrian that no one's ever found. They're on my website, geovortex.net. I started finding the fossils. Then I started finding eggs in Colorado. I started finding burrows, and I started finding skeletons on the web that from the 1950s, that mummies in Wyoming. And one of my professors at Wyoming was a worldwide anthropologist, George Gill, and he had studied some of that, and he wasn't quite right on some of his analysis because my fossils matched the petroglyphs, matched my skeletons, matched my stuff. And so I went above and beyond with so much data that I have a whole glossary on this specific alien because I found it, and I've named it. I've named it the Exteron Infinitas Namerigerus, the EIN, and it means the infinite extraterrestrial little person, little people. And I got Naimarigar is the Shoshone name, Eastern Shoshone for little people. So I just named it Naimarigerus, and I just made a Latin. I just put a little Latin on it, and that's how I named it. So I try to make things in convention and be a scientist about it because it has to fit and it has to be plausible and it has to be presentable because it's not just selling a book and selling that. I mean, I got higher aspirations because this is mainstream stuff because this is everywhere. So that's the primary part of the invasion, and the little people are the secondary part when the Earth and when they started harvesting the Earth to manufacture the bombs that were landing on Earth that are everywhere, and the species within the bombs that I've found and also tracked. So, a lot there.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there. Definitely, the metal part is cool. When you got the metal tested, did they say it was something that's been found on Earth before or no?
No, they're just technicians. No, this is a rocket alloy. So what I found is a rocket species. This is the metal. I call it tesonite. So I've measured it. I got scanning electron microscopy done on it. I've named it, but it has a signature to it. When you look at it under a microscope, it has a signature, as I've found on Google Earth, in the oceans and everywhere. It has the same exact signature on how it accelerates, the alloy accelerates. So being a geologist and being an engineer and a petrophysicist at times, I've learned how to study rocks, and I've learned the characteristics, but also if you can see how it disappears. It's one cell. It's one cell, and it's as light as a feather, but it's probably meant for 4,000 or 5,000 degrees, right? Whatever. It's part of the rocket, that I found in Colorado, and I found this by hitting a hammer on a rocket stage. So what I'm saying is, like, I can say all this, and then I can show people all the artifacts, all the ones that they have enough time to understand and want to. That's what I'm saying. Excuse me. I can kind of track my progress of how I kind of connected the dots. And that's what my book is. It's kind of a manifesto, and it's long, but it takes people through, not as a geologist, even though I am, but kind of like just a sleuth, right? Just a guy that just puts it all together. And those were my ahas, were every day. Aha. and then I started finding some stuff, and you know, I don't know if your audience is used to visuals or you are, or maybe it's another time, but you know, part of this is kind of showing the visuals, not just talking about it, but presenting it.
Yeah, of course.
I think that I've put a lot together now where with the book and kind of the next year putting together social media. And I won Author of the Year for a corporate vision for nonfiction. So I won my first award already for my book. So that means I'm not only business recognized, but I'll start being science, because I've tried to penetrate the science people and some of the key people in science. And it's like, I'm just going to write the book and I'll let people read it, come to me and let them, and I'm going to come on your show, Jeremy, and I'm going to tell my story and get it out, and then let the brand speak for itself and let all the evidence speak for itself. Because I got the skulls, I got the skeletons, I got the how they their defense mechanisms. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen all of it now. It's been a tremendous ride.
Which I have to ask, because I mean, I would imagine something like this would draw attention. Has the government come knocking, trying to either shut you up or possibly?
No, I don't talk about that. I don't. I'm protected. I mean, I don't worry about that. I'm sure they got everything. My stuff is not my stuff should unite everybody. My stuff shouldn't divide everybody. My stuff talks about a presence that's bigger than anybody that dominates our atmosphere, that is our Earth. And so to your point, you're right. But I would like to talk to the government just like as a peer group, just to say this is why you see the UFOs. This is why you don't need to be scared, because this can be all explained with physics and geology now and chemistry. So that's what I try to put together. So the UFOs are coming in and out of our visible spectrum. So I've found this transitions of these propulsions and geology and this physics that has been so purified that start exploding. But I've also found that there's not one process. There's multiple dimensions and multiple technologies that are there's so many different sciences within this whole thing. It's like I started with geology, geomechanics, mechanical engineering, and chemistry, and then it just kept growing, astrobiology, and I just started finding more stuff. So I'm not really afraid of that. Like I said, my book's going to be around the world, and there should be no threat to anybody. I think I should be more trying to understand this, because I've seen the climate and the acceleration in the Earth. See, not only is Google Earth so high resolution and so of course ubiquitous, but it's also it's time lapse, right? So I can go back and I can see the acceleration over the last 15 years. So a lot of what I find is going to help us understand climate better, and hotspots better, and places we shouldn't live.
Interesting. Which I mean, yeah, usually it doesn't really matter whether it's going to unite people or not. I mean, the government likes to sweep everything underneath the rug nowadays. I mean, even though they want to come out and say, "Oh, UFOs are real," but we're not going to tell you a speck of more information than that. We'll tell you UFOs are real, but that's all we're going to tell you. We'll keep the rest of it hidden for now. I mean, that might change in a few years, hopefully, if everything.
It's just there's. The fact of it is I've found the portals too. I've found the portals in the desert. I've found them. I've seen them. I've got them. I got them. I found them. I found these huge portals, not like just inside of a pyramid, buried and stuff. I found them in the desert that are massively cool and that are huge, that are so remote. That's what I'm saying. I found this stuff. The stuff I find explains so much. It explains pre-man. it explains it's all pre. It's all that. It's the chemistry. It's the ignition. It's the water. It's where the water meets rock. It's where life starts with the highest impact, both physically with the impact, creating the moon, bringing the water, and then growing, bringing the species, and that's why Yellowstone was a huge, phenomenal formation, huge underground formation that was the Galapagos Islands, from what I've mapped. So that's part of the other cool stuff that I'm tracking down. Where I'm going next is Galapagos and Easter Island. So back to the aliens. I'm not scared to talk about it. I don't have any inhibition whatsoever. It's more for education. It's more like it's already out, right? It's already going. There's no stopping what's going on there. It doesn't talk about the secret to overcome it doesn't talk about that. It talks about the Earth geology, and the ultimate kicker is how we're connected to the cosmos physically in the geological record of the features I found on Google Earth and in my handheld fossils, mapped to a lot of different nebulas that I found from James Webb Telescope. So that's the last chapter of the book. So that's why I think we should be all awakened, because this is not superficial gray aliens that I'm talking about. This is the original supreme being that came, that transformed all life, that started all life. Everything else came after. Everything else came after, because we had the water, we had the energy, we had the organic, we had everything going. So it wasn't microbes that caused all the iron in the oceans. So it wasn't the volcanoes that created all the craters in the oceans. It was massive. Before Pangea, I call it exterangia. That's before Yellowstone. So there was a subsurface life that I found, that I've by understanding the Earth, the process that because we've always been covered in ocean. All the pyramids, all the ruins, a lot of the stuff was under the ocean. So this just matriculated as the oceans dried up. Things started digging in, and but I found the evidence in Wyoming, in Crete, and Easter Island of the same formation in the geology record, the same exact head and how it looks around some of those areas. So my stuff is way abnormal.
Which is interesting, because I mean, it's been spoken on this show a lot about how people say, like, the Palladians and the Arcturians and all these different races created humanity before the Great Flood, before recorded history, which this would kind of almost predate all that. So, which makes
and I'm not to argue the Palladians or the Arcturians or anything like that. All I know is it's plausible that we're from a lot of different places, because of the nature of the geomorphology, just the geomorphology, meaning the surface of the Earth, that I trace exactly to the cosmos. It's not just one nebula or one constellation. It's boom, boom. It's the pillars of life at Hubble, beautiful correlations that I found all through the whole thing. So your point is well taken like that, because it is about I do think that Earth is that humans are super rare, super important. We're here for a reason. we're not here just to spin out in 30 to 70 years and not learn anything and just struggle. And you know what I mean? It's just there's just more to that. So I don't know what your thoughts on that, but I think through finding more things, it's like it really is like a quantum world. It really is a quantum. You talked about, you know, it's not really incarnate. You're just awakening. You're just, your soul is just alive, and it's just like, this is who you are. It's just coming alive. It's, your reality is what it is and what you make it, right?
Exactly. I mean, I 100% believe in multi-dimensions, and we're living in a very complex simulation, basically, that we live in, because a lot of us are not awakened yet to the truths of this world. And I've talked to plenty that are. I've talked to 300 plus people that have been awakened in this world and can see things and do things that others can't, which I accept as 100% truth, that people can do things that others can't and see things. So it, I mean, this, I don't know. To me, this is mind blowing. Like, I really want to read your book, because it's a very mind blowing concept that history goes back this far, even to be more than just fishes swimming in the ocean like we thought back then. Rather than, I mean, is it 100% possible that there was extraterrestrial life back before then? Oh God, yes, 100%. There's species that are
Yeah.
older than we could comprehend in this
Yeah.
universe.
And there, the whole, the biggest punchline I think I've come away with is that there's been so much geology that hasn't been studied. There's such a gap. There's been some, you know, Wegener that played tectonics around the 19th. That was great, but you know, my professors at Wyoming were great, but it was localized stuff, and they didn't have the tools to really to put together, and it was industry driven, right? It was basinal, and it was grant money to study the fossils in this basin, to drill the best wells and to find the traps and the plays. And so a lot of the money and the resources and the intellect goes into that world. So being in the field, I was detached kind of from that big high octane part of it. So that's when you throttle down and you start seeing this stuff, and you start finding the stuff that no one's ever found. And you know,
Which,
it's just incredible.
being a geologist, I have to ask this, because I've never really been able to ask this to anybody, but I've been seeing a lot about this recently on Facebook Reels and whatnot from other podcasts. What is your theory on dinosaurs? Did they actually exist, or were they basically
Dinosaurs existed, and dinosaurs were part of an extinction cycle that I've found, that's been repeated over and over and over from the species that I've found. Hence, it's what's caused all of the extinctions, and the current, and the last one, the Holocene, with all the invasions and all the humans. They said, oh, they ate everything, you know, they ate all the animals. That's why all the big animals. No, they didn't. They didn't have the weapons and all that to kill all the animals in North America, you know, and all the different places. But so my theory is that what was your question, real quick, again? What's
dinosaurs?
Dinosaurs weren't wasted, and it wasn't a sterile asteroid. The dinosaurs were part of the food chain that were just developing, that sustained the life here. There's a super predator species, is what I'm trying to tell people, that's still here, that was always here. That's the super predator species, and we have tentacles of it that I found and I've filmed in Wyoming, that are the Loch Nesses and are the Bigfoots. So there's a transgressional life of these things, snakes, and people talk about dragons. All that stuff becomes mystified over the years, But these people and these Indians and these indigenous people and our ancient ancestors saw these things in the life. They saw the little people running around. They saw the rockets. They saw the people landed. So it's all documented, and the Bible only talks about what the government wanted to talk about back then and what they want to talk about now. So
Exactly.
my stuff is like, you want to read something so extreme, that's what I got. So extreme.
Which, I mean, I love that you brought that up because it's very true. I mean, I've talked about on this show 1,000 times how organized religion is one of the biggest frauds in the world because they made people believe what they wanted them to believe. They took out parts that they didn't want people to know about, and
I give them money for them to tell you that.
Yeah, they'll never tell it. They'll never admit it. But it's. I mean, because dragons 100% existed. I've seen the proof of it. Dragons existed. I've seen enough proof to know that's true. And I mean, Bigfoot and the Loch Nesses of the world still exist. They're still seen on an almost daily basis by different people.
They sure do. They sure do.
Which I was gonna ask, since you do deal with natives, like what do Native Americans think of your findings? Like, do they?
My Native Americans are like, go for it. We want you to tell our story that my grandma told me about not going up to Dinwiddie Lakes in Wyoming. John, I told you not to go there, but you did, and I told you not to. So I have firsthand experience with the natives and their stories of my Indian friends that are my age that tell about their grandparents. So I go up to these places, and they are extremely strong and vivid. They are in the rock record up there. I mean, these petroglyphs. It's part of the culture. Indigenous people around the world all have the lore of seeing extraterrestrials. They all do.
Oh yeah.
There's just no denying it. What I've done is I connected the dots with my own communication with both the Indians that and the stories with being on the land with the Indians that talk about them and finding the bones, right? So I've actually found the bones in 2 states, the burrows, and found the bones. So it's about a bigger connection and a bigger story that I'm trying to get people starting to prep them by doing these shows like this and lead them into what I found. But once they start understanding the geology, because the geology is the fundamental science that's been missing. There's too many archaeologists that are saying, oh, it's older than 1,000 years. Oh, it's older than 3,000. No, it's older than all of that they can even imagine. Rome didn't build all their stuff. Turkey didn't build all their cool stuff. It was all here. It was all prefab. It was all for communication and awakening and technology and all of the cool jettisons out of our planet using our third eye. It's all that cool stuff, right? So,
I mean, well, they started admitting now that the pyramids in Egypt are more than just basically caskets. I mean, they're actually connected to underground things that can produce energy. So they were obviously used for something in ancient times or pre-ancient even. I mean,
and they're still finding stuff. They're finding stuff. They found this stuff in China, remote place in China, and they found huge irrigation channels, hundreds and hundreds of feet long and perfect. And they said, well, we want to see, so they cut one open and they found a staircase that went down and then opened up they found like 30 different chambers. I'm like, you gotta be kidding. And they were showing it. It was phenomenal. But it's like the archaeologists are the trailblazers, but it's like it's where archaeology meets geology because it's so old. It's ocean. It's not man. It's ocean, and it's frequency and it's energy and rock that made everything. It wasn't humans, you know, pulling 10-pound, 100,000-pound
Yeah,
water on their
no,
backs, right?
no. I mean, no. I can't believe the slaves built the pyramids thing. I haven't bought into that one in a long, long time. It's illogical. It's illogical. There were the ancient Egyptians had it, the Mayans, the Aztecs. They all had depictions of things coming from the sky and landing on
They
Earth.
all have. They all have. We all have. You know, these every state's got something really cool. Utah's gotten really cool stuff. Wyoming, Colorado. I mean, every state, Georgia, Florida. If you know where to look and what to look for, it's like. But the stuff I deal with is so big, macro. It's like I had to correlate it from this to the small to know that it's an infinite and it's a fractal species that is here, and and we're part of it because we're a natural. Our DNA is a natural part of the evolution of Earth, and so, you know, like my Instagram, I got Earth and I got a big rainbow DNA going around one of my logos on my social media, because that's how I feel. That's how I feel we're connected to it so much, in because you think about the sun, how much it affects us, right? And it's because it's like so important. It's almost like it's everything that we need: water and sun. And it's just an amazing time we're going through, Jeremy. I think we're going to see some incredible, for the ones that are awakened. We're going to see things we never even imagined. I am a sure believer of that, and I think it's going to be great. I do.
Yeah, I mean, 2027 keeps coming up, so I think something's going to happen in the next couple of years that's going to really awaken most of humanity. Is going to be awakened. I think the ones who are not awakened are going to be the ones who fight it, and the ones who try not to open their eyes because they'd rather be stuck in the falsehood that we live in than to see the truth. But
I know.
and I want to touch more though on this super predator you're talking about. Like, I'm kind of like that. Of course, I'm a cryptid person, so that's got my interest 100%. I'm like, what is this super predator? Like, what was it, like an octopus? Because you said tentacles, so was it like a land octopus?
Well, the octopus is its own alien species that's
Yeah,
incredibly smart and understudied now. So the octopus is just another species that came from I can't remember exactly where they said the octopus came from, but what I'm talking about is a super species that's organic based. It's a living rocket. It's the aliens are the technology, and the technology are the aliens. It's not something flying in a ship. It's all in one, designed
it's hybrid.
fly into. It's intelligent on how it builds itself when it lands and crashes. But so the super species is the super organic species that brought the water, that made that planted the oceans with the ammonites and the trilobites. Remember, these ammonites died out with the dinosaurs, but the ammonites went all the way back. They were the one most accessible, but the trilobites, all that was food for millions years before that. So all of a sudden, once the equilibrium of digestion equaled the amount of deposition in the ocean, that's when we started finding all the fossils in the land and in the rock record, because they showed up, because that's the time that was it. They were deposited. Before that, they were getting consumed and the energy was built, and that's when it was harvesting everything. So then the equilibrium started, and that's when we started seeing all the fossils. And a lot of the original fossils and phylum are still around today. The original families in the ocean are still around today from all that time ago. So people have never been able to understand, well, how did life just show up? Boom, it was already here. It was already here. The super species was already brought the oceans and farmed and brought the life already. Everything started connecting. So everything started evolving and changing, but I think they lived on the trilobites, because some of the early some of the really cool things I found in Utah look like huge metallic trilobites. That's why Utah is so beautiful, is because of the nature and how close it is to Yellowstone, like the Rockies, how extreme they are. The Flatirons are just full, and the Wind Rivers are just rockets. So once I explain that, do some more videos, people will go, oh yeah, I see what he's saying, because it's already been mapped. What I'm doing is I'm connecting the life record that's in the rock to the structural geology and the geomorphology.
Which makes sense. And I mean, it's funny you mentioned little people, because I mean, I live in Massachusetts, so Pudgewalkies are a well known thing in Massachusetts, and
Yeah,
I've heard plenty of experiences with them. So and it's not just here, obviously, it's all over the world. There's
all over.
Stories of little people, stories of these little humanoid species that we can't quite prove exist, but I mean, well,
And they're
at
here.
least they
They're
say.
here because they're fantastic diggers, and they're really fast. They got humongous, long fingers. They're really strong hands. I've got the bones for them. I've studied them for hours and hours and hours. I've seen how they dig perfect holes fast. I've seen them really in the microscope. I caught on film really small one, but then I found holes that are perfectly drilled by them in the middle of a road. And I've seen holes that are 4 feet in freaking granite up in Winter Park that are perfect holes. And this is the St. Pedro mine is where they found it, but they swim, they got articulated bodies, and so they can swim and move through rocks and water and dig, and they're just amazing creatures. And they got big mouths, and that's how they also undulate through water. Because remember, it was all ocean. It was all ocean. Earth was all ocean for million. It almost all still is now, right?
Yeah.
So these are all water-based elements of early life, and that's how so the anatomy that I studied, they could swim, they had big mouths, and that's how they could undulate and propel. And that's what I found in the skeletons, and that's what I put together. So it's all part of the species, but they are meant to reconstruct the rockets on the surface in these mines that I found, so as the original rockets landed millions of years ago, the little people here are either looking like humans driving the trucks or mining, but these are huge. I call them rocket plants, and you can see them. You can see them on Google Earth, and you can drive to them. But I've seen some that are plasma based that I've only found in my iPhone 11. Not in any other. I can't find it on Google Earth, on my PC, on the web, but just on my iPhone 11 Google Earth. And that's part of my book. And it was so close to home, I had the shivers. Okay.
It's interesting.
There's some really cool stuff out here. Really cool stuff.
And you mentioned the big guy, so I know you worked in the logging industry for years, as you said. So I got to ask.
Well logging.
What is it? Oh, well logging?
Yeah, not tree logging.
Oh, well, I mean, that's still in the woods, I assume, right? I mean, I assume I don't know anything about logging, so I assume anything to do with logging is in the woods. But I may be ignorant on that fact. But am I wrong?
Yeah, well logging is the term to analyze well logs from oil wells and water wells and gas wells. That's well logging to me. But I'm happy to talk about tree logging. I mean, I know a lot about trees. I think trees are one of the most marvelous things on earth.
I mean, well, okay. I wasn't going to go tree logging, really. What I was kind of aiming towards, because you mentioned them earlier, or it, I should say. But where does Bigfoot play into this? Because you mentioned Bigfoot. It comes from the super predator.
I think so. Where I think Bigfoot is Bigfoot is a held over specimen in the forest that doesn't have a colony anymore, is just wandering through time. The thing about it is the older that's an older part of the species. The younger species are the little people. Those are the youngest ones, which I think live for 50,000 years. Okay. Then the Bigfoots are remnants of the oldest ones that are isolated in the forest, that are just kind of wandering around. They don't have a tribe or anything to work on. And they're remnants of the same species, but they're lost, and they're just kind of, I don't think they're shapeshifters. They might be. I haven't proven that they could be, but I've seen that their body parts are just pretty physical bones and things that I can show you. I can show you their skulls. I can show you a lot of stuff. There's so much stuff in the field. Once I found them, it just started. You just start finding a lot more. So what I'm saying is the little ones I found more congregated, more colonized and together, where they were on a mission in an area to build out, tunnels, to build out the surface, to mine the old minerals from the rocket. So I think that the Bigfoots are the leftovers from times that are just wandering aimlessly. And I think the swamp creatures are part of it. They because these things can swim and live anywhere, but they're also carnivorous. Okay, they're also carnivorous, and they're also they're going to eat whatever they can. So there's no what do I want to say? There's no reason not to believe those stories of Bigfoot, those stories of Loch Ness, the stories of the swamp creature, because this is a species, like I said, that is part of the earth, that's learned how to live through the ice age, has learned how to live through the dinosaurs. I think they ate a lot of the dinosaurs because they were so big back then, and the super species. So there's big dragons back then, right? I mean, I don't know if you've seen the fossil in China about the big snake. I mean, it looks so real and so cool. It's just going to keep coming out. What I'm coming to you, Jeremy, and your audience is like, I've put so much of this forward to give people a head start, because it all starts locking in place once you understand it. They did talk about this. They did. The Loch Ness. Okay, it does change. See, and I've seen it. I've seen a 3-foot one up in the Wind Rivers of Wyoming, and I've seen a lot of otter. I've seen everything up there, but this was magnificently, freakishly cool, and it's like, yep. And I've been to Argentina, and those people talk about it down there, and I've been down there, and I started mapping some massive formations around these big lakes that show outlines of this specimen of this rocket species that can look like a snake or a dragon, depending on how it looks to people and how it formates. It can look like all of that, but it's all there. And I'm kind of just blowing the lid off all the old traditional conspiracies and theories with just tons of data. It's not tons of theory. It's not tons of like, oh, I know. It's like here's my, it's like here it is, right? Look at that cool photo on that. That's cool as shit, right? So over 1,000 pictures I got in here. I mean, it's plasma, plasma rockets, plasma all over, molds of planes. I mean, it just goes. Why does Antarctica look like it did? Because it's part of the 7-layer dip that came out, and it's just part of the package, and it flipped over. You can see it on Google Earth. It flipped over. It's a magnificent part of the equation. So Antarctica, when it all landed like this, and then came Antarctica. So Antarctica is going to recapture it. So Antarctica turned over so it can regenerate within it. It continues over and over and over and over. It's just like, it's for the people that want to know there's infinity, I will show you what infinity looks like. I will help you understand what infinity looks like, because of the depth and the complexity and the wonderment of the physical beauty in this earth. But Jeremy, I'll leave it like, I have one chapter, well, one video and one massive finding episode called The Crystals of Infinity. I found miles of infinite color crystals that are, I call it tesonite, but crystallized ocean in the Mediterranean. And I fly over, and it looks like science fiction. It looks like freaking science fiction, but you've never seen so many beautiful colors in your life. And it's all the rocket metal. Earth is a rocket. It's a super rocket species that's fractal. So we're made up of trillions of individuals that make up the Earth. So just like us, all of our atoms, they're vibrating. They say most of it's empty space now. Not over 99.9 is all empty space. And we can only see so much with our physical eyes. So I'm trying to be a really master observer for the world right now. A master observer to get this information out, to give people some really great wonderment in their head, to say, yeah, there's some really cool stuff out there.
I mean, well, and I will say that with Antarctica, there's a reason that nobody's allowed there. There's a reason that the governments are all researching it, and if a regular citizen tries to go there, they probably will be shot in sight and disappear.
Right.
They'll disappear basically from record, because
it's growing ice, right? It's powering up. Ice is power. So the snowball Earth, the curved ice is power. So when they've proven ice curving ice throws off a lot of power, a lot of power. So the whole thing, it's powering up. Antarctica is powering up. It's growing in ice. It's getting more powerful.
Exactly. And I mean, I've seen some videos too of things they found in Antarctica that are unexplainable, pyramids underground and whatnot. And it's like, I mean, we know Antarctica wasn't always ice. We know that. It's proven at this point. And if you look at old maps of Earth, there was actually continents down there. There were lands down there that people lived on before it was ice.
There's so many layers of this Earth. There's so much to really understand, and it's only good. It just had to be a geologist that could start taking some of that and seeing these huge macro, this big macro events, right? And then I could go see the 40-foot craters and the 200-foot craters in Wyoming and Colorado, because I could go down the road and I could find these lakes that were caused by these bombs that are living lakes that have the extraterrestrials. They're everywhere. They're just everywhere, right? There's nothing to be scared of though anymore. There should be nothing to be afraid of, because they created our Earth and they brought the water. So we should be thankful that we have our DNA and water, because it was because of the super species. It just was.
Which, I swear to God, folks, I could talk to this man for hours to try to understand all this even more, but I'd be here till 3 a.m. trying to figure this out. And my head would still be spinning like it is right now, trying to put all this together. This is unprecedented information that I've yet to hear, and that's rare in this show. That's rare. So
thanks for that.
I mean, I definitely am going to be getting the ebook version of your book so I could read it, because I'm dying to know more, and I'm sure my audience is too. Honestly, I'm sure they are.
Yeah, I'm offering a membership for all my books, 150 one-time lifetime membership. I got merch now. I got books, and if you wanted a free hoodie when you buy just email me on my website. If you wanted a free hoodie by buying the library, I'm offering all that. I want people to see this, but I want them to see how much I have. I mean, it's past the theory, folks. I mean, it's you want to see some leading badass geology and in life that you've never seen, in concepts. Because I mean, I got great imagination, but this is beyond imagination. This was a download.
I mean, honestly, I couldn't even imagine this if I tried. It's unlike it's unlike any science fiction movie that's ever been made. It's completely new information, and that's
A
mind
lot
blowing,
of it.
amazing. But tell the people where they can find your book and where they can find you if they want to learn more.
Yeah, so www.geovortex.net. That's my website. You can go on there. You can go to my library. You can go to Rocketware. That's where I have all the merch. But you can see about me. My contact info is on the website. It's explore@geovortex.net if you have any questions. But I'm at the point where I want the curious people to understand what this is about and collaborate more. Right? I got to get DNA testing done on my stuff, on my tendons and some of the bones and things like that. I mean, I can do the geology and test it with SCM, but there's a DNA part of it that I'm missing. So if you see what I'm saying, I'm trying to bring this thing to a different level, to more mainstream science and STEM, because it needs to be. So one of the first engineers that read it, he's like, people need to understand this. So geovortex.net, it's the portal. It's where I put all my stuff in there, and it's a way for people to escape, I think, and get into the not the 5D, but whatever dimension.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly feel like this definitely needs to be picked up by some scientific group that will actually be willing to fund all the testing and everything, and be able to have the access to get the testing done in a way where the government cannot interfere with it, because the government will interfere with it if they can, because it goes against what they're trying to preach. But at least as far as we know so far, but that could change.
Like I said, I'm here for a reason, though. I'm talking to you for a reason. I'm looking forward to a lot of great stuff. I mean, I think my book's going to be in 5 countries in a year. It's already in Chinese. It's already in Spanish. Got audiobooks on the horizon. So my stuff's going. I'm like, right. So I'm at the beginning of our ride, and maybe let's just stay in touch on this, and you can keep up. But if you dive into some of the fascinating things as you try to process this, Jeremy, you're gonna have some questions. I know that, but this is why you have the show too.
It's exactly why I have the show, because I like to question things and I like to learn new things. So,
right.
And paranormal is the one field left on Earth that is not completely already understood. So we need to get out there and explore this type of stuff a lot more often, in my opinion. And this is what our government should be focusing on, not the bullcrap they do focus on. But
NASA would love my stuff. See, I should be no threat to NASA. NASA should love my stuff, right? So there should be a real collaboration, because none of this has ever come out from NASA, right? I don't know, because I don't think they know it, right? There's a whole different, but NASA's not even funded. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm leading the charge with guys like you. I'm leading the spigot of the portal. I'm letting it open up right now to the world. And this was about no filter, no conspiracy, no third party that somebody's died and their voices. It's my voice, it's my evidence, it's my life, and it's my awakening that I'm sharing.
And I appreciate it greatly. And folks, I will of course put the link to his website, to Johnny's website, on right in the description for all you listeners of the actual podcast when this eventually releases. The video will be live for people to watch from now to the foreseeable future, as long as internet exists. So I'm sure this is going to have so many replays, it's going to be ridiculous. And I will love that. I will really love that. But I want to thank Johnny for coming on, because I'm gonna have to have him back on at some point after I do some reading.
I'd be happy to, Jeremy. I really appreciate being on with you.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. And all my listeners, you know where to find me. If you don't by now, shame. But it's all in the outro. Check it there. All the watchers, you're obviously going to find me where you're watching me. So come back and watch me here again. In the next couple weeks of Halloween, I have a lot of interviews lined up because it just happened that way. I did not plan it. As you all know, I'm not scheduling these. I'm not looking for anybody to come on my show at this point. People approach me, and I don't turn them away unless they have nothing about paranormal to talk about. So, and even then, I might have them on just for fun. But come back later come back at some point this week or next weekend. It all starts for the next 2 weeks. It's gonna be busy, but till then, folks, you have a good night because I'm tired as hell. My baby's sleeping. I'm going to freaking bed. So have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you next time.